We
Okay.
are we are live.
We're live, bro.
So I'll go
All right.
through and do all this stuff and you fill us in.
Okay, so I'm gonna fill you in on the two new things, except for I gotta get this pad back under my booty, right? Okay. There we go. All right. So I first off, speaking of chairs and situating and whatever, I'm redoing my office.
Yeah.
And I ordered yesterday an Anthros chair.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
is.
don't know what that means. What's that mean?
Well, apparently, it's a pretty big
Apparently.
deal. Yeah, it's a pretty big deal. I guess they're owned. I mean, they're not owned. They're capable. Like you're capable of using like HSA funds because it's actually been considered such a therapeutic deal. So
Yeah.
what it does instead of aligning you through your lumbar,
Okay.
it actually aligns your pelvis. It has it instead of being in the sort of like the lower mid back, it
Yeah.
actually has it right there above your waistline, and it actually it 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 it, it creates and sets your pelvis right. So it sets your hips in so that you don't have to so that you're not being supported by, because the problem is they said when you support the lumbar, it basically causes the pelvis to slide forward,
Hmm.
and it makes so what that does is that after a long amount of time you might not notice it, but then you have really bad low back problems, or this is what's really weird, or like neck and shoulder stuff. Because here's what they say, because when you
Okay.
support the lumbar in the middle of your back, it
Yeah.
forces people to push their neck forward to do their work. If you set the pelvis, it allows the back to relax, and it
Okay.
allows the neck, and it creates the right curvature so your neck sits right. So
Interesting.
anyway, I got a super good, huge discount on it. They're not cheap, but um, I told my wife, I said, man, I'm not going to do that. I'm like, I balk at like $800 chairs and that kind of thing. But she's like, babe, like you do your study, you do sermons, you can't not be at the computer,
You're in
whatever.
well, plus your
It's like a
schoolwork.
tool of your, right, dissertation. It's like a tool of the trade. So she's like, just consider it part of the cost of that.
Yeah, you gotta do what you gotta
Um,
do, man. You gotta
so
100% do what you gotta do.
the other thing that's really cool is we have really high radon in our area. Like radon is particularly bad in areas where there's a lot of granite under the ground, which
Interesting.
is our area. So radon numbers are really high around here. In fact, I went downstairs. I bought like a professional radon detector, like a reader, a measurement device.
Sure.
And it was like the other day, it's actually one day it was like 30 something. And the EPA says anything over 4 is dangerous. Anything over 10, leave your house. Not really leave your house, but
Right.
you know.
Right.
So Rob DeBoard, a business owner from here, just started a business doing radon mitigation. So he comes to the house, goes to the basement, finds a really good spot in the basement, drills a hole in the basement floor, creates a cavern under the basement floor, takes all out like these 5 gallon buckets of stuff, puts the PVC down in there and runs it up, drills through the side of the basement wall, puts the
Okay.
PVC out, goes in, gets electric, whatever, and they have these fans, and it starts drawing from underneath your basement floor. I went down there this morning and the reading was 0.21.
Let's go.
in 4 days.
That's crazy. That's
Bro, in
crazy.
4 days. It was now it had I had opened the windows and doors and stuff like that. So I'd gotten it down to like, I don't know, it was
Yeah.
like 12 or 14. But it went from like, I don't know, let's just split the difference. It went from like 13 to sub one. Anything lower than four, they say EPA says is good.
Interesting. So I
Isn't that
just pulled it
crazy?
up. It's the
Yeah.
second leading cause of lung cancer.
There you go. Our
It's pretty
numbers are through the roof here, bro.
pretty important deal, and most people probably don't even know it.
Tasteless, odorless, and invisible gas.
And so you get all these non-smokers that show up with lung cancer probably going, "What in the world? How did I get lung cancer?"
Yeah, I've never smoked a day in my life.
Wow. It said 21,000 deaths a year attributed to radon.
So it was a pretty good investment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know what? And you know what's so crazy is for the average house, he can do the radon mitigation for less than $2,000.
Man, that's pretty awesome. That sounds
All
like a
parts included, man.
pretty good investment to me. Pretty
Yeah.
good investment to me. All right, you want to give us a Ken Bastarkey, Chief Meteorologist, weather report on the ones.
Chief Meteorologist Kim Bastarkey checking in from Northeast Ohio. 21 degrees for a high of 26 today. Feels like 5 in Northeast Ohio. 45% chance of snow. What is happening with spring?
Bro, literally 3 minutes ago we had I don't know if this is the official term, but a snow squall. Bro.
You did
Oh, you couldn't
like a
see.
Native American
No, I don't think that was what it
squaw.
was.
Oh,
No.
squalla.
Yeah, squall. It was you couldn't see, and it lasted for a
That's
couple
awesome.
minutes, and then it was gone. It's crazy. So, thankfully,
That's a
I
fun way to
know
get snow, though.
I know a lot of places got quite a bit of snow. There's a little bit of a covering this morning from that, but we didn't get anything the last couple of days. So it's just good to be from Toledo.
I know. I let the dogs out last night. Who let the dogs out? Um,
Woof, woof.
I let the dogs out last night, and there was like almost an inch of snow on the deck.
That's crazy,
Yeah,
bro. That's wild, man.
That Native American girl actually came through our area too, and she, the snow squaw,
The
and
snow
but
squall.
yeah, but bro, it was like wide out. Stephanie said, look outside." I said, "I am not looking." She said, "No, look." I said, "I'm not looking." She grabbed me by the chin and she said, "You look at that snow."
Oh man, what it was so I was in St. Louis last week. It was 86 one day, and then the next morning that the when I woke up it was 20, and then it was 76 I
No,
think
no
here on
wonder you're
Sunday.
sick today, bro.
I know, 76 on Sunday, and then I think this morning was like 19 when we woke up. So I am battling a little something today, but we've had so much time off, Ken. This is what we do.
Yeah.
It's flu game.
I'm your team. I'm your team today.
It's Jordan flu game. So
Mhm.
so all right, you ready to get rocking and rolling today?
I'm ready. Speaking of German accents, um, uh,
Speaking of German accents.
I am ready. Um, Hogan's Heroes is no longer
What?
yeah, right. It's like 12 o'clock on Sunday, 12
Wow.
a.m.
What in the world, man? Why would they
I
do
know.
that?
Well,
Get
and
out
I
of
think,
here,
yeah, somebody said they replaced it with Golden Girls. I
bro.
mean, how do you go from
Stop.
Hogan's Heroes to Golden Girls?
Stop it. Hogan's Heroes one. It is. It is the GOAT. When was that? In the
It's
60s?
the
Well,
go to
I mean, obviously
sitcoms.
we saw it as,
Yeah,
reruns, but
yeah. I think 60s
crazy.
into the 70s, maybe. Hmm.
We should do a
Robert Hogan.
whole show on those reruns and sitcoms. We've talked about doing one for all of the theme songs. They don't have any good theme songs like they used to. You know what I'm saying?
I know, I know. We could break out with "Welcome Back, Kotter" right now. It's probably the greatest
Oh,
theme song,
bro, the
right?
greatest song.
But all of a sudden, da da dun da da dun da da dun da da dun. Breaking news report from Chief Meteorologist Ken Bistarkey. This just in: meteor over Cleveland, Ohio.
What? What?
What would be what would happen if it like clipped the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and went right into Lake Erie and created a tsunami for the Upper Peninsula? I know that
Well,
wouldn't be Upper Peninsula. That's Michigan. Is it Michigan? UP?
yeah, UP's up.
Huron?
Yeah, UP's yeah. Yeah, and they got blasted, dude. I think they got like 3 foot of snow with 70-mile-an-hour winds. So they got
Mm,
blasted. So maybe, man, maybe there's signs from the heavens.
for real. Heavy Big. Hey,
You gonna
sup,
pass
Heavy
over
Big?
John Hummel's comment about your hair?
Yeah. Well, you know what? Look, I mean, what do you do? What do you do?
If you got it,
What do
if
you
you
do?
got it, flaunt it. That's the deal. If you
I've
got it, flaunt it.
I've got no product in it today. Look, it's just bouncy. I got no product
Listen,
in it.
me and John don't want to hear it.
I
We
know,
do not want to
right?
hear it. So
They've asked me to be a spokesperson for Rogaine. People are like, I knew he used something.
no, it's those implants
Ro-
really
That's
took.
right. That's it. What's it called? Uh, what's the company? Bosley.
Oh, there you go.
Bosley
I'm not just
hair.
the what was it? I'm not just the president, I'm also a client. Wasn't that the guy that said that?
He did say that.
I think
He
that was
did
his big
say
line.
that. Right. Right. I've been accused. I mean, you know what? I've been accused.
Yeah,
Never
there's Hanks chiming in. We don't get to make hair comments. That is accurate. That is accurate.
I
Although I told my wife this week, so I was traveling a little bit, and I saw, and this is gonna sound very judgmental. I don't mean to be judgmental, but I saw some
don't be.
folks that
Yeah.
I told my wife, I said, you know, if I had to choose,
I like how you're measuring your words. You sound like the difference between Obama when he's reading a
yes,
scripted
yes,
speech versus speaking extemporaneously. He would
uh,
stop and yeah.
what I'm trying to say, uh,
Uh, uh,
I'd rather be bald than have that. How about that?
then then have what you
What?
saw.
Yeah, the people that I saw have their hairdo.
Oh, that's so good.
So that's I told you it was gonna sound very judgmental, but it just is what it is. So
Oh,
yeah, Hanks
so
knows what I'm
good,
talking
man.
about. He knows what I'm talking
So
about.
good.
All right, you ready to rock and roll? Speaking of rock
Yeah,
and roll Hall of Fame.
Tim Krause said TF Tenney always said you can't put cheap furniture on a marble top.
That's exactly
True.
right.
That's it.
Oh, TFT. That's a
No,
good comment. I like
that's
that.
it. No Rogaine, no Grecian formula for me, bud.
No Grecian formula.
Grecian formula.
That's
No,
awesome.
no, no squaw hemp, squaw hemp.
Oh man, we better get going before we get in a lot of trouble. I feel like this could go
I know.
sideways real quick.
People are like, why are they making Native American jokes? We're not. We are Native American. Stop.
We can do that.
We're not misappropriating our own humor,
Our
buddy.
mama, our mama gives us permission,
Mm-hmm.
right?
100%. And Doc, I'm going to tell you something so crazy. You know, she used to say Pickaway. She'd say Pickaway. Our family is from Pickaway. And I was like, she must be mispronouncing Piqua, right?
Yeah.
And then we found out recently that Pickaway County is where Circleville is. And it was the longest location where the Cherokee Shawnee Indians were. And it was literally it was that place where the Shawnees actually asked the government to separate the Cherokee and Shawnee, because the Shawnees were from they were from a different region, but the Cherokees and Shawnees sort of blended. They had some, they blended in, and so the Shawnee sort of got absorbed into the Cherokee under, I guess, federal designations or whatever. And so it was, so it's Cherokee Shawnee. So we could be Shawnee, but it's really interesting. It all
Wow.
merges at Pickaway County. And Mama used to always say the family's from Pickaway, and it's not Pickwa up off of
Right.
75, Pickaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Interesting. I did not know that. I've always just heard Cherokee, so I didn't know that. It could be Shawnee.
Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Jerry curl. Michael Hank said, "I think you go with the Jerry curl."
Oh man, yes. I think that would
Bro,
be
hey,
amazing.
hey, 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 Hank, listen to this. I was guarding a guy. I was guarding a guy playing a basketball game my senior year in high school from Carbondale, and he faked me. We were down. I was down on the block. He got a pass down on the block in the post. He faked me to the right, and when he did, his Jerry curl hair flung around and hit me in the eye. And he turned the other direction, and bro, I had to come out of the game. I had to go to the locker room and wash my eye out. It burnt so bad and it wouldn't stop burning. So
Dude, that's a great technique to use right there, man.
he
The
did.
guy,
He
remember,
flung the Jerry curl on me.
do you remember, I think it was AC Green from the
Uh-huh.
Lakers. Do you remember him? I think that was him. Maybe somebody could look that up and tell us.
AC
AC
Green
Green.
was Lakers, or he wasn't Celtics, was he?
No, he was Lakers, I think, but originally, like early on, he had a legendary
He did,
Jerry
didn't he?
curl.
He did.
Yeah.
I had a guy come up and hug me and pray for me. He was new, first time guest, hugged me, prayed for me, spoke in tongues. Fire, fire, fire. He said, "You're on fire." And so he got done, and he put his hand out and he said, "Kevin Hale." And I said, "Wow." I said, "You're just a Mick away from a Boston Celtic."
That's
He looked at,
awesome.
he did.
He
He
didn't get
did.
it.
He just looked at me. Not everybody's quick as us.
No, well, I started to make a joke about a movie from my BC days when I that had a deal. It was a commercial for Jerry curl, but I won't do that. So we'll
Okay.
we'll
Okay.
keep it we'll keep it spiritual today.
Okay.
So,
All right.
all right, let's go
We're
live.
talking about
Let's go
we're
live.
talking about a world with no reference points.
Hello, right? Exactly.
This is
Exactly.
the unanchored podcast. That
That
would be like
actually sounds
that would be like a
amazing.
that would be like the unanchored. It would be like a podcast from all the people that left.
I
No.
literally was just gonna say
What
that,
do you
bro.
say?
I literally all the people that have left bounds. Don't give them any ideas.
I know, right? I mean, we've all got people. We've all got people.
We've all got people. All right, here we go.
Okay, here we go.
J-Rod gets it.
Yep.
He
Yep.
gets it. All right,
He
here we
got
go.
it.
Whew. Recalibrate. Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Mobilized Church Podcast. This is Chris Dillingham, alongside my big brother Ken Dillingham, Jr. the Third, back to our regular schedule, Ken, after a hiatus.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I've always said I'd rather have a hiatus than a long break.
We better keep on going. It has been a lively pre-show. We've gotten some scientific. We've gone the whole gamut. We've gone some scientific information about radon,
We've gone
sociological,
from radon to Jerry
cultural. I was gonna break down like the history of Cherokee and Shawnee Indians all the way to Jerry curl. So
that's true. And what's interesting is that's why it's so difficult when people say, "What's your podcast about?" You know what I'm saying? It's
You know
like,
what our
well,
podcast is about? The pre-show is what can get a little. As a matter of fact,
yeah,
we kind of I felt like we really needed to go live because it was starting to teeter on the brink of just kind of
it
going over
was.
the cliff.
It was. It was. I just there was a few times right there that I just said, hold it together, pull the
For
reins,
real,
pump the
for
brakes.
real, for real. And I'm a little bit full of cold medicine, so that affects the
Hmm.
filter. So I'm trying to
It's true.
rein it in a little bit today. But yeah, it's been a great conversation so far. So this is gonna be a good one today, and we are
We
back. We
got a good
appreciate
topic.
we do. We appreciate everybody sticking with us. I will say this. So we're recording this on Tuesday the 17th. We did have our episode that we recorded on Friday. We did kind of an emergency podcast recording
Hmm.
on Friday because we've been gone so long. We weren't sure we are gonna get
Hmm.
today in. So that one just dropped, so people can go check that one out. That was a great conversation, Ken.
Hmm.
I felt
I
like that was
actually,
really good.
dude, we actually did our live talks on Sunday on
Yeah,
that topic. And I said, I'm going to talk about some things that I've thought about since we did our podcast, but we're not going to redo that topic. I just want you to go watch the podcast or
yeah,
listen to it.
yeah,
And, and it was amazing. And then, there was a couple of guys that texted me yesterday that are, so my golf buddies, my old golf buddies were like, hey, give me the link to the last podcast you did. They caught a little bit of the live recording. And so they're like, where's that? Where can I get the finished one edited?
the edited version. So it is out. So you can go check that out. And so we're getting back on schedule, back on track after a
Uh-huh.
crazy little season for both of us. But
Hmm.
we are back and ready to go. So today we got a good
Right.
one.
We do. We do. It's been a
And we'll,
crazy season. It's a crazy little
yeah,
thing called love. Who knows?
something like that. Well,
Right.
yeah. So Jared Young just opened up a can of worms.
I know.
We didn't even touch on March Madness, which I feel like we're obligated to do. I feel like we really need to just
Yeah.
at least real quick tease up just a little bit because it is the greatest couple of weeks of the year.
Bro,
There's no ifs, ands, or
tonight
buts about it.
tonight is the night to be from Dayton. It's the first four, and the game this evening is Texas versus North Carolina State.
Let's
I mean,
go.
come on,
Right.
man. And then tomorrow is Miami of Ohio versus SMU.
Yeah. I think that's
SMU.
right.
Yeah.
Man, I gotta give a shout out to my Toledo Rockets. That's my secondary team, the Toledo Rockets.
Okay.
Bro,
Okay.
their coach is one of the he's an amazing coach. He's won hundreds and hundreds of games
Yep.
and is a great coach. But for the MAC, you have to win your tournament. And this year it wasn't their best team, but bro, they had it. They had it and they blew it in the last 30 seconds, and so they ended up not making it. I can't believe there was even a conversation about Miami of Ohio not making it. I don't care who you are. If you go if in any conference, if you go the whole season with one loss, you're in the tournament. Why are we even arguing about
Hmm.
Auburn, who lost what 16 games, and
Yeah.
you're
And they
complaining
lost.
about Auburn?
Yeah. Miami of Ohio lost their conference tournament game. It
Right,
wasn't a conference game.
right.
I mean, it was a conference game, obviously, but I'm just saying conference tournaments are different. I mean, look at Purdue.
Yeah.
I knew you'd enjoy that Purdue statement that I put in the
Uh,
father son deal.
yes, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is the holiday. I told somebody this week, like our parents used to let us take off the Thursday and Friday to be able to watch March Madness. And so
So awesome.
actually I think there was a couple weeks there where we could watch. We used to have to like figure out a way to get it, but there was a season where we could watch the Illinois high school state
Hmm.
tournament games.
Hmm.
And then I think it was the next week we'd start watching March Madness and just overload on that. And I will say this
Mm.
about the brackets. I probably watch more basketball than any person that I know. And I regularly get beat by my wife and my daughter who have no clue about basketball.
It's unbelievable. It's it's just unbelievable. I can't remember who it was that remember that preacher group that we were in,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? And we know that those guys, I mean, they literally know more about hair implants than NCAA basketball, and
I love
still
it.
win.
I love it. I hope they hear this. Oh
Still
man, that's
win.
amazing. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah. Say something about it, and I'll call your name out.
So amazing. So thanks, Jared, for getting us a little sidetracked there. But I do appreciate it because we
I
we
know,
we definitely need to talk about March Madness because it is a national holiday. It should
right?
be. We should let
He
out school.
Jared said he corrected to undefeated season, but he initially put underaged season. I'm like, that was when we were watching those long basketball.
That's right.
That was our underaged season.
That's exactly right.
But then I
For
realized he
real.
was talking about Miami
Right.
of Ohio.
Miami of Ohio. So, all right, let's rock and roll. Let's get going today.
Let's do
So,
it.
all right. So, this is I'm gonna let you kind of just get the party started with the conversation, but I'll
Hmm.
just say this. Um, you know, we live in a world living in a world where part of the challenge we've talked about this missionally. I'll just set this out and then I'll let you go. But missionally, we've talked about Bible studies, particularly in an era
Hmm.
and a season where you had people that were fundamentally in agreement that the Bible was the authority. They may not live by it, they may
Right.
not,
Right.
but an agreement that it's the word of God, it's the authority. And so Bible studies were very effective because it had the ability to demonstrate and show people like there's some things about the Bible that you probably were never taught and
Right.
give them a little more truth. And the challenge now is we live in clearly postmodern, uh, post-Christian world, um, that significantly impacts that. And because we're typically truth leaning in our presentation
Hmm.
of the gospel
Hmm.
for mission,
Hmm.
it affects when you don't have that
Hmm.
center, it affects your
Hmm.
ability to communicate and articulate that. So today we want to talk about, and this is your title, so I'm gonna set the
Okay.
title up and then let you take it from
All
there.
right.
But the title for today's episode is 90 Miles from Nowhere, a world with no reference points. So talk to us about what that means and this idea about not having kind of this agreed upon framework that we're
Hmm.
all operating from.
Yeah. Well, the idea, of course, is if you're 90 miles from nowhere, 90 miles from nowhere is nowhere. It's like
Right.
saying, it's like saying to somebody said, I'm going to double your salary who doesn't get paid.
Right.
So
Right.
two times zero is still zero. Zero times 90 is still zero, right? Because there's no reference point. And so if you said 90 miles from nowhere, if I said, where am I at? And somebody said, you're 90 miles from nowhere. Um, I think that there might be a place, by the way, there may be a place in Nevada or whatever called Nowhere, Nevada. I mean, if there isn't, there should be Nowhere, Nevada, out in the desert somewhere. But I mean, realistically, if you told somebody you're 90 miles from nowhere, you're not telling them anything. There's there's no way that a person could get to anywhere if you told them that they're 90 miles from nowhere, because there's no way for them to have any frame of reference. And I think that's where much of our culture is right now. And I'm not just speaking morally, right? Like, you know, lost structurally, lost
Sure.
spiritually, lost in a sense that, reference points have been rejected. And like you said, there were people that, years ago, there might be people that weren't necessarily living a biblically stringent life or a biblically oriented life, but yet they would agree that the Bible is the reference point. And so, it's not that that we're merely living in a sinful world.
Yeah.
That would be one thing.
Yeah.
You could have a world that says, I believe that the Bible is Jesus as truth is the ultimate reference point. That is right true north, or that is the epicenter. But we're living in a world today that increasingly resists any outside authority telling them what is true, what's good, what what reality actually is. So, from a biblical perspective, there's a time in the Bible in Judges 21, the Bible says that everyone did that which was right in their own eyes. And this is, it's more than just a description of Israel's moral failure, it's a description of what happens when God's no longer the reference point. And so, I mean, to me, that sounds very modern, right? This is not something new. And it's not
Yeah.
something that just irreligious people do, by the way,
Sure.
right?
Sure. Sure.
Doing that which is right in their own eyes. And we live in a world today where the basically the message is, live your truth, live your truth, do
Sure.
what feels right, be true to yourself. Whatever you do, be true to yourself, define your own identity. So and so here's the thing. That sounds freeing at first,
Sure.
but it creates a serious problem,
Yeah.
right? When
Yeah.
everyone becomes their own authority, truth becomes something that is not held to. It creates instability, and morality becomes negotiable. Society begins to be fragmented, and what we know is that a world with no reference points does not produce freedom. We know that. We
Right.
know that a world without reference points produces confusion and instability and ultimately collapse. We don't have to look at the United States right now. We don't have to look at Europe right now. We can look at history.
Sure.
Any nation. We were talking the other day about Daniel chapter 8, and Daniel chapter 8 says that that there was a goat that came in and it conquered the ram, and the ram was the Medo-Persian uh, nation, and then Greece was the goat, and Alexander the Great, and so on. But then it says when finally it's all established, that it will be defeated without an army. It basically means it'll implode, it'll collapse. That's exactly what the Roman Empire did.
Yeah.
It literally, historically, Rome decayed from the inside out. And
Yeah.
so I think this is the thing today. We're talking about this. I think that at least sets up the topic.
Absolutely. And I do think it's helpful to look at like our specific culture. If you're in a different if you're in China, Asia, like there might be some cultural differences when it comes to this, but I do think it's helpful. And I love how you set it up. Like this is a human nature thing, regardless of what the culture is. And we've seen it all throughout history. There is an inclination and a desire to not be like to be able to I want to do my own thing
Hmm.
over and over again, right? I want to do my own
Hmm.
thing. I want to know. But I think
You
like
do
in our
you.
yeah, you do you, boo, right? And I
Right.
think our culture, looking at our culture, you know, you have the scientific era that was supposed to solve all of our issues and was supposed to solve all of the problems, and everything was geared towards science. And then, beginning early 1920s, maybe 1930s, the introduction, the initial seeds of postmodernism,
Hmm.
which questioned all of the things like scientific is supposed to be based on things that can be proven. And then postmodernism comes in and is like, yeah, but those things can't be proved. And so then it starts to question. And then you throw into that, you've got the introduction of the Pentecostal movement into the religious culture, which shook and rocked the traditional church culture in America. So now you have a society that has been raised, you know, denominational by birth, pretty much. Like we're Methodist because our grandparents were Methodist. That's how we were raised, right?
Right.
And so you get this postmodernism, and you see how that is impacted and affected all the way through this questioning, resisting authority, that the things that you've been told have been misleading, and it produces this uh this anti-establishment mentality. And I think really like where we're at right now is we're living in the fruit of a generation that has embraced postmodernism, and it's so deeply seeped into our educational system, which has become kind of the indoctrinational arm of that lifestyle, that mindset. But bro, there's no denying that that has become the predominant worldview, which is you do you
Mhm.
relativism. There, like,
Mhm.
the phrase "my truth," right?
Yeah.
I think is the greatest revealer of that. You
Right.
can have your own truth. You can say 2 plus 2 doesn't have to equal 4 for you if you don't feel like
Right.
it,
Right.
right?
Hmm.
So that's the world we're living in. The unintended consequence of that is what you're talking about is it doesn't produce more freedom or stability. It actually produces the opposite.
It's very true. And I think, yeah, right. And what you're hitting on is that excuse me, these things create an illusion of freedom. I think
Yeah,
that's probably the most that's probably the most dangerous part of it,
sure.
right? So what happens is culture presents self definition as liberation,
Right.
right? Don't let anybody tell you. Don't let anybody tell you what to do. Don't let anybody tell you what's right and wrong or whatever. But the question is, what happens with a society when everyone gets to define reality for themselves? What happens with a society where everybody has their own truth, my truth,
Yeah,
right? Who decides what's right and wrong? And so what happens is they say now anthropologists, sociologists, or whatever, they'll say that what ultimately happens is that culture will determine through its collective voice what is um, what is right, which is really dangerous in a democracy where majority rules, right?
sure,
And so
sure.
the question is, who defines justice? And we start seeing, and we're seeing even that this wording about the Constitution, like why would progressives, why would progressive liberals start attacking the Constitution as well? It's a living document.
Yeah, it's
There's a
fluid.
reason there. Yes, right. There's a reason why they have amendments and so on and so forth. It's not like any particular generation got it all right, and they knew that. And so, so this is the mindset, right? So, who
Yeah,
defines justice? Who creates the law? Who settles a moral conflict? There's a day when somebody outside of the force of authority, somebody could look at a judge and says, "You're not my judge." You
sure,
know what I'm saying?
sure.
So, who gets to say when desire goes too far, and so on and so forth. And so, I think that ultimately we see this as a societal issue. In fact, yeah, I'm skipping into our third segment here, but
Yeah,
there's been a number of writers that have written, sociologists that have written about these things, and writers that talk about that have, and researchers that basically have traced this modern drift toward radical individualism and self-defined identity. Rise and Triumph of the Modern Self, Strange New World by Carl Trueman, Robert Bella's Habits of the Heart. Um, it talks about that North America, actually Western culture has moved away from a a a mindset of avoidance, right? Avoid things that are bad for you, avoid things that are bad for your future, avoid bad decisions. You need to avoid those things that would be detrimental to your marriage, even if you don't have a strong Judeo Christian ethic or a bibliocentric worldview. The mindset is don't do the things that will cause you pain and harm. Don't do the things, right? So not even if you're not even talking about from a biblical perspective, Chris, you're just
sure.
talking pure secular
Yeah,
sociology. the mindset is that there was a day when most people said, you know what, don't go have an affair because that could, that could ruin your career. It could ruin, your wife gets half of your, the wealth that you've built, or so on and so forth. And so a lot of that was pragmatic. But these guys have written about how that, you know, that these things have created social fragmentation, moral instability, uh, right? When
Yes.
shared moral frameworks disappear, people don't become healthier and stronger. This is what doctors are saying now. This is what psychologists are saying now, right? People don't become healthier and stronger when they blur the lines and remove all boundaries. People become, this is what sociologists are writing about, this is what psychologists, psychiatrists, the medical field are talking about, that people become more anxious, more isolated, they become less
Sure.
anchored, right? So
Sure.
this isn't just a theological issue, this is a sociological issue. And I think it's something that, you look at the United States that has the highest per capita income in the world
Yeah.
and has the highest use of psychotropic medicines,
Wow.
antidepressants, anti-anxieties of any country in the world.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
What you're talking about reminds me of years ago. I read the story, and I wish I had the article, but read the story about, I think it was New York City, that said that they were going to remove the fences around playgrounds because it was too
Right.
confining.
Dobson.
Was it Dobson?
Hmm.
It was too controlling, so we gotta let them express themselves and let them be able to have more freedom to do their things and whatever. And what they found was, in the study, was at recess, when the fences were there, the kids, pushed to the limits. They were playing around the
Right.
fence, they ran with freedom and all the things. But when you remove the fence, they huddled in the middle of the playground area and rarely expanded out much beyond that.
It's
And
true.
the psychiatrists or psychologists and sociologists, the takeaway was that this freedom, this supposed freedom, didn't or these boundaries actually
Hmm.
didn't reduce freedom. They actually created an environment where freedom could flourish.
Hmm.
And
Because it made kids anxious, and the
yeah,
only way that they could feel safe is if they huddled together. So the very idea, remove the boundary because these kids were pushing up against the fence. That was the idea.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And the authority didn't suppress the freedom. It actually put them in a environment where they could express themselves in a healthy way. And so I think there's a lot of comparison. I think it's a great kind of a microcosm of what's happening in our world today. Is
Hmm.
there is that thought, man, if we could just remove these things that are confining people to be able to express themselves the way they want to, it's going to produce that the creativity and their own identities and whatever. But the reality is, you're saying, we live in the wealthiest culture ever. We've talked about it multiple times. The book Bad Therapy and a lot of other articles that
Hmm.
have come out, and that is, the most how would you say it, therapied culture
There.
ever,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Yeah.
and yet the most anxious. Everybody's battling anxiety, the most depressed culture. And so clearly the things that we have been told will bring freedom are not bringing freedom.
Very true. In 2023, the U.S. Surgeon General reported that loneliness and social isolation has reached epidemic proportions.
My goodness.
And the U.S. Surgeon General said that a lack of meaningful connection is associated to an increased risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, and anxiety. And this is the thing. It was, well, why do people have a lack of meaningful connection? Well, in some ways, what happens is it's this ultra individualism. Here's what's so crazy, Chris. This is so crazy. When Adam and Eve, here's the theological hook.
Yeah.
When Adam and Eve were promised by the serpent that if all they did was eat the fruit, that they would become gods like him, they essentially lost their sense of self because their self-awareness showed them that they were naked. Their self-awareness caused them to feel like to feel like that they were aware of their limitations. And then
Sure.
also then, there's some theological issues. The glory had left them, and whatever, they saw that they were naked. In other words, self-awareness, it's self authority, right? Self authority
Sure.
produced self decline.
Hmm.
Jordan Peterson talks about self-denial, being at the root of creating strong relationships. And yet the U.S. Surgeon General says that a lack of meaningful connection increases the risk of heart disease, stroke, depression, and anxiety. The health impact is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This isn't me. This is the U.S. Surgeon General Report 2023. The Cigna Loneliness Index says that a majority of Americans report feeling lonely or socially disconnected. Younger generations report the highest levels of isolation. Jonathan Haidt, right? Social psychology research links rising anxiety and depression, especially among Gen Z, to, ready? Identity instability, loss of shared meaning structures, and social media driven self construction. In
Wow.
other words, nobody knows who they are because
Yeah.
there isn't anything defining. Everybody's grasping in the dark. They're watching social media, trying to emulate and imitate something or someone else that is a always moving target. And the result is very, very strong indicators of social illness.
Man, that's so good. And I think contributing to that, Ken, is the culture where if you have an opinion that's different than mine, then
Hmm.
we can't even be compatible. We can't even have a conversation. I can't be
Right.
friends with you. You know, I understand there's moments and there's times where like the mute button and the block button on social media is needful and it's worthwhile.
Hmm.
But we've gotten into a world where just because I disagree with you means I need to silence your voice, and it's produced that isolation. Why? Because I don't want anybody to try to impose their thoughts and feelings on me. So what happens? You end up getting into an echo chamber, and all you ever hear are the same things that you've always ever heard, and that reinforces your own ideas and your own beliefs and what you already think and what you already know, and you're never challenged, you're never pushed, and you're never
Hmm.
confronted with that.
Hmm.
Why? Bec- Because I don't want to be around anybody that's going to try to impose any kind of authority in my life. That's a dangerous,
Yeah.
like,
And
just for
well, when they say,
your
who are you? Who are you to tell me?
yeah,
Right. Michael Hanks makes a great point. He said, infatuation with everyone else's existence causes us to become unable to define our own. And I think this is the thing when we're talking about social isolation. And that social isolation, Jared Young said this is why COVID lockdowns accelerated to epidemic levels. It locked everyone to
yeah,
digital screens for 3 years, which is true. But I think that is like the other side of a coin, though. I think if you look at that, you'd say, okay, so like which came first, the chicken or egg? Well, it's what we know is it's cyclic. Which, by the
yeah.
way, we know because we know creation. We know the egg came first, by the way, or I mean the chicken. But right, because the
Right.
Bible says He created the animal whose seed is in it, and an egg is the seed, and so the chicken came first. Duh. So, but here's the thing, though. But the thing is, though, I think that it is cyclic, and what he's talking about is that there was a social disconnection that happened during that, and then it locked people to screens. But I think there's another piece of the social disconnection, and it's not just simply uh, a forced social structure, an imposed social structure, uh, which would have been COVID. But I
Sure.
believe it was a willing, an unimposed, willing participation in social deconstruction through this ultra individualism. This idea that says, I'm my own person, I can do what I want to do, you can't tell me, et cetera, et cetera. There's an isolation that comes from that too. So while on
Bro.
one side you got COVID and all that, yes, I think that's an imposed isolation, but I think the other isolation is self-imposed when people reject when they live their life 90 miles from nowhere.
And this is why I think guys like Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, who are, clearly have their own issues and whatever. But
Right.
this is, I think, why they're so wildly popular is because in a world, I think there is an awareness that's happening in a lot of places in a world where I want to silence any voice that would challenge my beliefs. That's really
Right.
what, right? I don't want anybody to say anything that's going to challenge my beliefs. And if you say something or believe something, then it's okay for me to cut you out. Whether it could be a family member,
Right.
it could be a
Right.
family
It's
member.
and it's getting in the church, by the way.
It's getting in the church. 100% is getting in the church. But then you have a voice like Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, who are clearly not spiritual, religious voices in any way, shape, or form, but
Mhm.
they're sounding the alarm of saying, "Wait a minute, this is very detrimental culturally
Mhm. Mhm.
to not be able to sit down with people that have differing opinions and have a conversation and to be able to hear and to be challenged, the iron
Mhm.
sharpens iron type deal. Like if you're only hearing the things that you already believe, it's going to lead you down a path of self-destruction because you're never
Yeah.
challenged to think outside yourself. And I think that's why those
That's so
voices
good, dude.
are
That's so
appealing to
good.
so many people right now. They recognize this is not a healthy thing that's happening in our culture.
Man, that is so good, Doc. I think it's a good point, and I think that by highlighting these things, it demonstrates that what we're talking about today is okay. So why does this matter for mission, right? Why would this be part of? Why would this be part of the consideration for the Mobilized Church podcast?
Yeah.
And I think that it is, we have to be able to exegete the culture. We have to be able to if we're going to be missionally effective, we have to be able to exegete the culture, which means understand that that the church has a tendency, and I think for good reason, to respond to cultural disorder by presenting rules without reference. In other words, I think the church has a
Yes.
tendency to try to reinforce when somebody says 90 miles from nowhere. You're living 90 miles from nowhere. That is nowhere. 90 miles from nowhere is still nowhere because nowhere is not a reference point.
It's the
And
because I
so
said argument, because I said
that's
so,
that's right. And
right?
so people try to figure out how to reinforce what are those those sociocultural anchor points by saying this is the rule. This is the
Yeah.
rules. This is, we just need to get back to the rules. And we tell people what they should stop doing I'm just saying as a tendency. We tell them what they ought to believe. And if they don't recognize any rightful authority above themselves, then rules sound arbitrary. Like, that's your rule, bro. Don't tell me what to do. That's your rules. I know, but look, your life's screwed up. Why not? You know, and so I think the missional issue is not first. How do we get people to accept Christian standards? How do we get people back to a Bible standard of living? I think the deeper issue is how do we reintroduce Jesus as the true reference point, right? In other words,
Love
we're
that.
not we're not just calling broken, hurting people back to a moral code that is healthier. We're calling them back to the rule and reign of Jesus Christ because the Bible says where he rules, where he reigns, he creates peace. And that's what the world doesn't have. And that peace is the ordering of God. And so I think it starts there.
And I think so the reference point, like, go for us going back further, the reference point for us has to be founded and rooted on a missional perspective. Because what I see a lot of, this is purely anecdotal observation.
Right.
But I feel like what we see a lot of is people, is believers opining for the good old
Mm-hmm.
days.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm. If we
know,
could just get back to.
it's yeah, back we didn't have this stuff and we did it this way and we need
Mhm.
to do this and so it's kind of opining for this romanticized view of your world. And if we just got back to this stuff, then our world would be so much better. When in reality, like the missional perspective, the missional lens has to be the lens through which we view our world. It's not about getting back to the world that you're comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That
Right.
Jesus didn't die on the cross so he could make our world be comfortable for us to live in. He
Mm-hmm.
made it like our responsibility. He died on the cross so that we can reach people with the gospel, and
Mm-hmm.
it's our responsibility to say, "This is the world that we live in. This is the
Mm-hmm.
reality of the world, whether you like it or
Mm-hmm.
not. This is the culture. This is the world. Whether you like it or not, there is a group of people that believes that it's okay for men that think that they're women to play in women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
You can argue and
Or
you can
or
complain about that
men
and get all frustrated about it, but
or men who like children should be allowed to, and by like I mean like lustfully infatuated, to be able to have a
yeah,
relationship with children. The man boy, whatever called mambla or whatever. Right. Like, but Chris, here's the deal. When Jesus died on the cross, Jesus didn't Jesus didn't take us and promise us that we were going to go back to Eden. Jesus
right.
redeemed what was lost and reproduced it in a New Jerusalem, which is an Edenic city.
Yeah,
It's ahead of us.
sure.
So here, let me throw this at you, and I think this is because I think we know that Jesus is the reference point. We know that it's easier to introduce. In fact, Jesus didn't really actually even introduce his world to truth. He introduced them to the mission, or I'm sorry, not the mission, the kingdom. Right? Jesus introduced people to the kingdom. This is the
Yeah,
kingdom. Would you like to get? And then he said the kingdom is ruled by these realities, these truths. So we know that Jesus is the reference point. So I'd like for you to sort of hit on this idea about a better missional posture. So if people are here today saying, okay, well, fine, I hear what you're saying, but how do we engage a culture with no reference points?
yeah.
Right? What would you do? Like, what would you tell them? Because I'm sure that there's people that are listening who are listening to this podcast and they're saying to themselves, okay, I get what you're saying. I've experienced what you're saying. I've done everything I can. I've tried to, I've invited them to church. I've, whatever. They don't feel interested. They don't seem interested in coming to church. They don't seem interested in a Bible study. I don't know what else to do. So what would you tell them?
Yeah, well, and so I think highlighting what you've mentioned already is control is not gonna work. Engaging in a culture war is not gonna work. Trying to enforce our rules are not gonna work. I think it has to begin with I'll say this. I think, Jared made a great point about relationships. Like, this is why relationships are so critical and so important is establishing, building those relationships so that people can see the Jesus way, the better way of Jesus in us. And this is
Mm-hmm.
why it's so important. COVID is mentioned, and I think, one of the if I can say it this way, one of the failures I think that happened in the church is I think it revealed that the church, a lot of people, a lot of believers fear death so much rather than
Mm-hmm.
having a peace. I'm not saying we should have ignored it and whatever, but I'm
Right.
just saying like it revealed that. So like our responsibility is revealing the goodness of the reign of Jesus in our lives. They're going to see it through us, what order looks like, what peace looks like, what holiness looks like, what
So
righteousness
good.
looks like, right spirit, a right heart, and then
So good.
using that as an opportunity to share with them what the reason I have what I have today and the reason I am what I am today is because of the transformational power of the work of his spirit in my life. The
Mm.
transformational power of the work of grace and mercy, of redemption, of sanctification, the work of those things happening in my life have produced who I am today. I recognize I'm not perfect, but Jesus has the better way. And if you're experiencing anxiety, you can let me introduce you to the one. He's Alpha and Omega. He's the beginning and the end. He knows where you started. He knows where you're going to end up. And we have a promise that all things are going to work together for good to those that love God and the called according to his purpose. So instead of just reinforcing that as here's the truth, Romans 8:28, let me show you through my life how I live, how I feel, how I think, how I conduct myself, how I engage with people around me, that I have embraced and allowed his ways to become my ways, and it's produced peace. It produces hope. It produces joy. It produces thanksgiving. And I do think this is a battle, Ken, because the reality is in our culture, there's such a tug on individualism and there's such a tug on materialism that our joy, our peace, a lot of that contentment stuff is tied to that materialistic stuff. It's going to be through us that they're going to see the better way of Jesus, not through us telling them the rules or trying to engage in the culture war. It's us being Lazarus. It's us being raised from the dead so that people can look at us and be like, man, the men from the Gadarenes, right? They came and they saw him clothed, sitting in his right mind and having a conversation with Jesus. When you are confronted with the transformational work of the Holy Ghost in a person's life, like you're going to have to compare that and contrast that to your own life. And I think our perspective has been, we want it the way we like it. And then secondarily, like, this is the rule, this is the way. And so you need to just obey it and do it. And we need a realignment, man. We need a lens adjustment to allow us to view it through the missional lens so that we can say Jesus wants to use our lives to be the methodology and the messaging of the better way of the kingdom.
Jesus was a genius, Chris, when he said, if any man come after me, he must first deny himself. What a
Yes.
genius. But what you're identifying is that there better be something on the other side of that people can see the difference. If it's only about truth, then people in the church can live in such a way that parents used to say, don't do what I do, do what I say.
Yeah, that's right. That's
If it's
exactly
only
right.
about if it's only about truth claims, then people could just simply go, look, I know I'm not the best example, but I'm going to tell you what the Bible says, right? Well, if that's the way people live, then all of a sudden now we're at a point where it's like, okay, so it doesn't have the power to transform you, and I don't believe your Bible, and I also don't want your experience because you're just a hypocrite. Wow, that that changes things. It really puts a lot of onus on the church to be the disciple.
Bro, the Lord hit me this morning. When I woke up this morning, one of the first things the Lord hit me with was, it's embedded in creation. We reproduce after our own kind.
Wow.
If we don't have it, if we're not it, we're going to reproduce what we are and who we are. And I think there needs to be, you know, uh, kind of an awakening within the body of Christ that says, you know what, maybe, just maybe, the reason we're not winning our world the way we need to is because we're not reproducing after our own kind. We're not demonstrating the better way of Jesus.
So good. Well, and you know what? When you had, when you had a century of Christian culture, Christian oriented culture, when you had a century of Judeo Christian values at the bedrock of civilization here in North America, it then all you had to do is make truth claims. This is what
Yeah.
the Bible says. The only thing that's going to work in a post-Christian culture, some people actually call post-Christianity actually is, they're saying post-Christian culture is actually the new pre-Christian culture.
Yeah.
In
Right.
other words, you say it's post-Christian, but it's actually pre-Christian for those that are missional. And so in a pre-Christian culture, which is the harvest field that's ahead of us, it is there are truth claims. There is truth as the foundation. There is, but that truth has to first fundamentally challenge and transform us so that we can give that legitimate witness that you just mentioned about.
Man, it's so good, so good. I think this is such an important conversation for us. I think we need to be able to more adequately engage our culture and know what we're dealing with so that we can
Mhm.
recognize it. And then he's the, like you said, Jesus is the genius of it all. And
Yep.
that's where we need to put our hope. So great comments today. Appreciate all the engagement. We definitely utilize that as a kind of a bouncing point for some of the
Mhm.
points of conversation. So appreciate you engaging today. Appreciate you sticking with us and coming back, and glad to be back on track. So we look forward to coming back to you next Tuesday around 10.